Good evening, Randy Eastmond from Quantum.
Yeah, good evening. Select the chart. It's Mr. Paul. What's going on?
Man, you know this is an absolute honor.
The pleasure is mine. To
The pleasure is
be here
yours?
on your platform. Yes, sir.
It should be mine because the people don't know, right? But when they started Selector in 2017, this guy here in front of me was one of the first people to bring me into the industry, you know. Man gave me a tour of his studio. I got to hear some unreleased music. And ever since then, he has been pushing me all along the way. So Randy is a big part of Selector Charts history, so it's an honor to have you here, buddy.
I appreciate that, man. It's glad to see how you've grown and how you developed the platform. I told you that it was going to be a major player in the industry, and I'm glad to see how you've built it out thus far.
Man, that's because of people like you.
Appreciate that.
There's a handful of people that I could say really pushed me to be where I is today, and you're on that list.
I appreciate it. Be a part of your journey, man.
Man, Randy, you've been producing artists, new artists, legends for decades, really.
Yeah, it's this year marks 20 years for me, you know, in music production.
Congratulations.
Quantum Productions. It's a milestone, and I thought it necessary to do something special. So this year we're gonna celebrate with the album, attempting to do 20 tracks to celebrate the 20 years. If Peter Ram is gonna be the first release. So year number 20, the name of the album is Supra Omnia, and that is Latin for above everything or above it all. And I chose that phrase because, one, my relationship with God, where you put God above everything, relationship with music, you know, music above everything, and to also allow the public or the consumers to attach whatever meaning they want to Supra Omnia, whether it is life above everything, whatever it is, your children above everything, whatever, what is intrinsic to you, you can attach that to the meaning Supra Omnia.
So tell the people what you're most excited about the album, and then tell the people when they can expect this to release.
The album is it's a plethora of sounds, I would have to say, of sounds and expression.
Different genres.
No, all soca genre, but
All soca too?
All soca, but subgenres of soca.
I love it.
I don't want to give away too much, but of course, you know, you got the raga, you got the power, but there are some elements in there where the artists have expressed themselves uniquely. They've taken different approaches, and the songs some are inspirational, some are, you know, fundamentally cultural. Some will give you the love bugs, you know, you want to hold your girl and, you know, nice and caress and
two-step.
Yeah, man, real nice. Not two-step. You want to have a nice dance with her. Cause soca music. Yeah, you got two-step on soca music. You know, really well written songs. I am very, very happy with all the songs thus far. I don't think I have. Usually with the album, there are songs that you would just call album tracks, which would just play. But listening to the music, we had a listening session on Monday for the first 10 tracks that we completed, and everybody's pretty happy with what we have to offer thus far.
Fantastic.
So we're really happy with that, and I look forward to Barbados hearing it, getting the feedback, and, you know, consuming it, and hopefully the DJs will play it. Hint. Hopefully that's another hope.
Once the music hidden, they gotta play it.
Yeah, we would hope that they will play it, you know, because you can't force anybody to play your music, you know, and they would also have their own agenda or their approaches, but, you know, it's something that I wanted to offer. I think that as a producer, you have to leave a legacy, and it's not always in line with what people expect sometimes, but you have to leave a mark in terms of what you want to say to the world, and that's what I'm doing with Supra Omnia, leaving a mark on what I want to say.
Fantastic. And when do you plan to release this album?
The official album launch and media launch is going to be on May 29th. You can check that out online. You're going to have an online link for that.
The stream?
That listening party and launch on the 29th.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Kudos to all the artists who would have been a part of this journey over the last 20 years. Artists like Marsville, Peter Ram, Tony Rebel Bailey, Statement, those guys, Ramesses Brown, those guys that when they first started, when they call and say, hey, I got a new studio, I got a rhythm here, or I would love to produce for you.
Right.
There was no hesitation. Yeah, little man, you're coming through, man. Because they remember me from playing electric. Yeah, we give you a chance, little man, that's right. You know, Peter Ram has always been a staple for Quantum, and Tony Rebel Beard. I can't thank those guys enough. Nigel Barnett and Statement, I can't thank those guys enough. Marsville. Over the years, I've met new artists. We develop a lot of artists. Sluggy Dan. Most recently, we have Sugary, We have walks.
You developed so many artists. You were so
Bro.
pivotal to the beginnings
Bro,
of so many artists. Like, look at
too many to
Walks
call.
alone.
Yeah,
Look at Sugary.
yeah. But I gotta give credit to Sugary with Dapper, because Dapper would have handed her to me.
Okay.
And Dapper would be the person who would have developed her initially when she left Colmere, not a Colmere, right? And then eventually, you know, I was able to interact with her and work with her. I met Walks in 2017 too. You know.
But then he was Jamar.
Jamar, yeah. That was the name. You remember that boy, Paul? You got some
Brian.
history there. Yeah. Over the years, there've been a number of artists. Big Irie is also on the album.
Mm-hmm.
We have an artist from California called Main Event. We have Villain.
There's a white guy here.
I got a new artist who ain't so new and he ain't so young.
Mm-hmm.
A guy by the name of Sweet Life. He was the drummer in the band Electric. Big up to Sean Giddens.
Those who are paying attention to UpClose know who this guy is.
Exactly, he was on your last interview. So Sean has stepped from behind the drums now and gone up front as a lead vocalist. So Sugary is also on the album. Waltz is on the album. Mikey Mercer, my big brother. My big brother, yeah. Mikey has been a tower of inspiration for me over the years. Tower of support as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I gotta thank a lot of the musicians who have played on the tracks, bro. Names, man. Bernard Yearwood, Ryan Blackman, the brass section, Mylon Clark, Ricardo Bryan, aka Bam Bam, that's my keyboard guy. Damian Neblett on the bass, David Haynes on bass as well. Mario Burnett, Tony Bailey on the guitar. I've had John Roy play on tracks with me over these last 20 years. Darian Bailey has played
Is
on
John on
tracks
the
with
album
me.
too?
No, John is on this album this time.
man.
Well, you never know because we ain't finished yet, so you never know, something might come.
John might head in the
But
studio.
John's been busy. John's been really, really busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of persons have really contributed to the growth and the development of Quantum. I don't want to say success because, you know, success is relative.
No, Ronnie gotta be
and
humble.
it's- Huh?
No, Ronnie gotta be humble.
No, success is relative.
Okay.
What I may deem as success may not be success for someone else, and they may not mark it in the way that I might. You know, the fact that I bought a new cable yesterday, that's success for me, but anybody don't really care, you know? You know what I mean? So success is
that cable
relative.
can change lives.
That can change something for me, right? But it may not change anything for anyone else, you know?
Right.
So I am proud of what little we've earned, what little we've achieved over the years. Major respect to Jason Watson as well, who has been my ear perception. This is Jason has been fundamental to this studio because he's always told me never change your sound for anybody. Because when things were trending and they wanted to go in a direction to make the music sound a particular way, he was like, "Why are you doing that? Then that's not your sound. That's not how you know, that's not your style. Always be authentic to you." He's been that person to keep me on that narrow, as people say, old people say, keep on the straight and narrow path.
Right.
So kudos to Jason Watson for his guidance over the years. He has also partnered with me on about 3 albums together that we did: Danger High Voltage, CSME, and the Anticipated album. And of course, he is one of the key listening ears for this album as well too. Right? Man, yeah, there's a lot of people. I have to give thanks to my wife as well, who has, from the time I started work with her in 2017, she has been the voice of the backing vocals for the studio from then until now. Yeah, beautiful voice, creative ideas. She is the backing vocal behind the popular song Champions of Color by Walks.
Love that song.
Right, so if you listen to backing vocals, that's the way. For Mishka Eastmond, thank you so much, my dear. I love you. You did a fantastic job over the years working with me. My mom, my dad, and my gran, they would have allowed me to destroy their house to create 2 studios, because this is my second studio at the same residence. The first one was an old bedroom, my old bedroom that I grew up in, and the second one I redeveloped the studio into the garage and expanded into a bigger space. So thanks to them for allowing me to have that space, and thanks to my brother as well. There's so much people to thank, Paul, and to remember.
Don't worry,
it is
you
hard.
thank all of them.
You ain't gotta thank all of them, yeah, but there's some people that are very key and instrumental, and sometimes you don't remember. You know, I don't want to miss people. Fundamental, Mr. Adrian Mapp. I don't want to leave out Adrian Mapp. Adrian would have been the person who would have financed my first mixing board,
Oh, wow.
a little 8-channel board I started on. That's what produced my boo.
And that was an investment there.
That was an investment in me, and I want to thank Adrian Mapp for that. I will never ever forget it. Don't ever forget it. Don't ever forget it. I still have it actually. still have the board after 20 years
That's super.
because that is fundamental to me, fundamental to quantum.
So yeah, also you are doing other things in music as well.
Well, in entertainment,
In entertainment, yeah, you're doing
over
some
the years,
rentals.
over the years, Quantum Productions has expanded our portfolio. We are into event rentals, and we are also into event management and event production. That's another side to me where I've had the experience of working with the National Cultural Foundation on major events over the years, the mega cavalcades, 4-day morning, Pomp and the Sun. I was the event producer for those for a good couple of years, and also producing my own events, and then also in the private sector as an event producer. Most recently, the Richest Out Teen Talent Contest. With the event rentals, we do LED cocktail tables, sound systems, lighting, stages, small stages. We have a transparent stage. So the company has been diversifying and growing over the years.
And that's fantastic, Randy. So yeah, Randy, being 20 years plus in the business, how has crop over changed over the years to you?
Ooh, there have been so many changes. There's a plethora of changes, some good, some bad. Taking it back to when I first got involved in the crop over industry, I remember doing 20 nights performing in a tech. 20 nights, and then a judging night. And that probably was minuscule to some other persons who would have experienced 25 or 30 before my time, right? So over the years, I think we would have started we would have been rehearsing for tent and probably start in May. I remember leaving school on evenings and going to tent rehearsals, etc. Over the years, that has diminished and dwindled significantly.
Right.
And that's why I said the changes, there are a lot of changes. Some may be good, some may be bad. But for me, the vibe and the energy was a lot more vibrant back then. It was more authentic to the culture. You have a lot more events in this current dispensation, but because of market forces and the amount of persons in our population, it is not possible that so many events will be satisfied with the patrons that the promoters need to see to make a profit. And that's a concern from my end. Again, the relevance to the culture. People partied back then because they love soca music, right? They love to come out and hear the new music, support artists.
And the bands are performing every day.
You have bands. You could go even outside of crop over. You could have gone any day of the week and heard a band performing. Full like band.
Season.
Yeah, now you would hear solo artists performing or solo instrumentalists performing at various venues, or maybe in the hotels. But literally, bands would set up all over the island, all during the week. It was
24/7.
It was a vibrant industry at that time.
So what really changed? Like, why have we gone in a regressive direction when it comes to live performances?
There's a hard answer that I can give, right, Paul? Because so many more persons can play at a high level. You have a lot more options to choose from. And over time, prices have dwindled, and the standards have also fallen in some regards, because
so
of saturation. Yeah, so it is a bad thing, but you can't knock it because it means that our musicians have grown and developed, because the advent of the Barbados Community College program has seen a tremendous increase in the number of qualified musicians in Barbados, and that is something that we have to applaud BCC for. Mr. Roger Giddens, Pernell Farley, take a bow. They have worked extensively to ensure that program is pristine. We've even seen musicians coming from overseas to be a part of that program, and it has now allowed us to have a cadre of musicians who are qualified, and they are at a very high standard. Right? So I think hotels, promoters have access to more musicians, so the market is no more competitive. And if you understand economics, you know that where you have greater competition or more competition in the market, prices will fall, right? And that's one of the things that has deteriorated over the years within the market. Prices are now, way lower than what they would have been years ago.
And therefore, performers get paid a lot less.
Performers get paid a lot less.
Be a sustainable career.
Yeah, and then there are more options, and every option may not necessarily be the best option, right? So it's a give and take. It's so much to analyze and to take in. There's so many factors that you have to consider. There's no I don't think there's a panacea or a one fit response to explain, what has happened over the last 20 years or 25 years that I've experienced. You just have to take it for what it is. That is how a country develops. That is how culture grows. Because culture isn't just crop over. Culture is the tone and the timbre of a nation, right? The culture is the expression of a nation, and things have changed over the years. The dynamics have changed. The demographics of the music industry have changed. We have to take all of those things into account. So for me to answer that wholesale would be pretty difficult.
And someone with so many years in the game, where would you like to see the local industry go? Like, what vision do you have in mind that could be?
I
take it to a high level?
think we need to focus on exporting our creative products.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
Not
Randy.
just music, not just music.
You hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah,
man.
I think we need to look at our creative products as actual products and focus on exporting them to the international market, because Barbados suffers from what we call economies of scale, or lack of economies of scale. We don't have a huge population to consume our products. So let's look at Africa, Nigeria. Those artists put up a song, they're guaranteed 250,000 hits probably on the first day, simply because they have a huge population. Where in Barbados, now you put up a song, you're hoping that you get 25 views in the first day. So I think we need to start looking at how we can take our product and strategically align with other countries that have that economy of scale and place the music into the markets. Artistry, visual arts, performing arts, dance, theater, drama, whatever, so that those markets can consume what we have to offer, because there's more opportunity over there. I think in those markets we will be somewhat culturally relevant, because we are akin to them in some way.
And we're unique.
Right. There may be some language barrier in some cases, but if we are strategic about it, we can find markets that will embrace what we have to offer.
Randy, that has been the consensus I've been hearing the last couple of months.
Yeah.
That we need to look at our creative element as a product that can be exported.
Yeah.
So we need to brand it correctly and make it, digestible.
And not only exported, literally taking and lifting it to another country, but how do we leverage what we have here and capitalize on tourism? Sports tourism is a big thing in some countries. Why can't entertainment tourism be big? That's
Exactly.
a product in itself that can be developed,
Exactly.
as opposed to having just standard, you come to the hotel and there's dinner music playing. There's some hotels that do major floor shows, but I think we need to look at that really and package it even greater.
Exactly.
Why can't those floor shows be flown to the UK or on a more frequent basis? Because it does happen.
Yeah, on
right?
a smaller scale.
It's on a smaller scale, but perhaps on a greater scale. When you do that, you take the original music along with it, and shop the music at a greater scale than what you do right now. Because we focus on the hits, the big songs, that's fine. But every year we hear the complaint, there are over 700 songs going into the radio station systems, and 30 of them are no. What happens to the rest?
Randy, I agree 1000% there. And you know what I love to see after last crop over? Walks, Jordan English, Mall,
Those
Left Hand
guys,
Status.
that is what you need.
They
to
went together, they traveled,
Yeah,
they got an event overseas.
that is the kind of support that we need.
That's the exporting, the export of the product right there.
Correct. That is what we need.
Yeah.
We need the artists to see the industry, and I'm not even gonna talk about government support, right? Because we can't always be dependent on government, right? You have corporate entities who can see the movement, make the investment in the artists, and give them the support that they need. And in some cases where that is not present, you have to bite the bullet on your own, right? Figure out a way on how you're gonna get it done. Kudos to those guys who did that last year. Think what they called it,
The Beijing Avengers.
Beijing Avengers, right? That was a brilliant idea.
Very
Brilliant. But I
brilliant.
think they self-funded it too,
More than
right?
likely.
They
more than
planned
likely.
it, and they planned the events in the various territories that they went to. They say, look, we ain't waiting on nobody to put their hands on this. And if they were able to market and package it, people would invest and buy into it eventually.
Exactly.
So I think that's something that, as an industry, everybody needs to look at. The jazz musicians, the soca musicians, the reggae musicians. We don't have to sit here the entire year. We don't have to sit here and wait for a promoter to call. The reality is that there are not that many Bajan promoters on the outside anymore. So promoters from the other islands are definitely going to be calling their own, homeboys
Correct.
So we now need to look to go outside and take the product outside on our own for people to embrace it.
I think that is the next evolution for our industry. So congrats on the announcement of this huge album with an amazing name. So how did you get your start in music to begin with?
My first experience in music was because of my mom and my dad. They wanted me to have discipline and have application, and they thought it necessary that I should be exposed to piano. And I started piano lessons between the ages of 5 and 7, I remember. Classical piano. I really didn't take it too seriously at the point in time, and then I had a resurgence of interest in music when going to the first church I attended, which is the Bethesda Pentecostal in Vauxhall Christ Church. Watching the musicians on stage playing, that really, stoked a fire in me for music. And funny enough, one of the musicians is actually my current wife's dad, right? Obviously, we didn't know each other at that point.
Well, what are the chances?
Yeah, so coincidence. And then I used to watch the bass player, a guy named Andrew, and I went to him after church and said, hey, I would love to learn to play bass, and he introduced me to the bass guitar, showed me the fundamentals and the basic stuff. But at 8 years old, you're not thinking that you can have a career out of this, but
Just having fun.
yeah, having fun with it, learn to play a little keyboard, learn to play the drums, because Bethesda was a really family-oriented church, and you had to get involved in the programs there. And then eventually I went on to primary school under Mr. Lester Messiah. Kudos to what he come back. I did a lot of theater and prose there as well. And then moving on to the greatest school in the history of mankind, the Commonwealth School, University of Waterford.
You have just woken up the whole Commonwealth massive.
Yes, up and on. I had the opportunity to be a part of the Barbados Cadet Corps band from the time I went to school in first form.
Randy was heavy in music, boy.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, but whoa.
Yeah. Myself and good friend, rest in peace, Damian Taylor, him and I went to the band stores and we said we want to learn to play an instrument, and they handed me a tenor saxophone. At that time, the saxophone case was probably taller than me because it was very short at that point in time. People would not, believe that. And I took the saxophone home, and that's where my interest in the saxophone really started, But I still had a love for the bass, but saxophone was the focus because that's what the cadet band required at that point in time. Fooled around a little bit with the trumpet, trombone, tuba a little bit in the cadet
Multiple
band.
instruments
Over the years, based on need when people fell. But I didn't take those that seriously. Saxophone was the main focus at the point in time. So that's where it started.
So you had a reputation for being in music at school?
In a sense, yes. I guess so. Because then in full form, I remember we started an a cappella group. And I was one of the singers in the a cappella group. It was the first a cappella group at Conway. We went on.
Randy the vocals?
Yeah. We went on to NIFCA and we won several awards over the years.
Wow.
It was a huge a cappella group with nine members. I didn't want to start calling names because I didn't want to leave anybody, right? But I remember when we were caught with this singing thing, we would usually hang across the pasture at Conway School and rehearse. And the principal at the time, Miss Dorian Pyle, God rest her soul, thought that we were doing
nefarious activities?
Yes, she thought we were involved in nefarious activities.
Little kids.
Yes, and she came across. She said, "What are you doing?" We said, "Ma'am, we're singing." I don't believe you. Sing what? What? I think it was about 7 of us at that time.
That is hilarious.
Come to my office. We went to the office, and she said, "Well, you're gonna have to sing for me now. Let me hear you sing." So all the fellas, teenagers being one, let nobody hear me sing these sweet voices. So the leader of the time, Mr. Ryan Butcher, kudos to him and Brian Lashley, another lead singer. They said, "All right, guys, let me hear what's happening." So we were preparing a song, Lord Prepare Me, at the point in time. We performed that for her. And Miss Pell said, "Y'all have to sing that tomorrow morning at assembly."
Wow.
Yeah. And that's how the group Rest Assured was birthed. All the teachers were like, "Oh my God, we didn't know y'all could sing." The music
So
teacher
because
at the
y'all
time.
got caught and were forced to sing,
Yeah.
that pushed y'all to actually
Because we
start
were
a
thinking
group?
about singing, and it was more like, well, I don't know what vision Ryan Butcher had at the time, but most of us probably were thinking about girls, right? But then it started to get structured. The music teacher, Mr. Pilgrim, said, y'all gotta enter NIFCA. And we had Mr. Keith Squares, both of them passed. Mrs. Pilgrim passed recently, Mrs. Squares passed some time ago. And they took us under their wing and create a structure. They started to speak to us about rehearsal, planning your performances, delivering. I think we entered Teen Talent. We performed at the Spirit of the Nation show. We performed at Nifka Gala.
Oh, the district school?
Yeah, when we were at school, we were actually doing hotels as well. I think right now, we perform here, even at Rocky. Yeah, yeah, man. Like during the Christmas and stuff, Mrs. Squires was our manager, and he would take us out to perform at various hotels that would book the group. So Ryan had the major task of arranging the vocals, and to think about it, as a schoolboy, to have that gift that he had to just sit on the keyboard and give us the harmonies and the arrangements, because it wasn't simple arrangements,
Mm-hmm.
I really have to give him kudos because Ryan was very talented, but again, music wasn't his mainstay, and the fellas would listen to what he had to say, and the ideas that he had in his head. We had to pretty much bring that to reality, right? So yeah, that was another section of me at school involved in music. So the cadet band, the a cappella group, and then finally, while in sixth form, there was a group of us who we were all in the cadet band, and Mr. Jason Watson and David Haynes decided they wanted to start this band, this soca band. Some of us were planning to go in the police band, some of us wanted to go into UE, different career paths.
But he had other plans in mind.
He had other plans for us, and we started this soca band called Electric, which at that time featured Keisha Christian. We had a lot of vocalists coming through. We had Dawn Drew, we had Debbie Douglas. You had so many other vocalists who would have passed. Right? Shaka McNeil was a member of that initial grouping.
Early in their careers.
Yeah, but we finally settled with Keisha, Omar McQuilkin, and Michael Mercer. Dale Best was also part of that band. We had so many vocalists who would have passed through and contributed. I don't remember all the names. Like I don't like calling names because I don't like to forget. So if I did forget a name, please forgive me. But we had a lot of persons who would have contributed to the growth and the development of Electric. And Electric would have started in 1999. We had Lorenzo. Remember Lorenzo was a part of that as well too. And that group version, and we wrote original music. We were able to perform on the NCF Cavalcades. I think we performed the first ever Cavalcade. And that is what sparked my interest then in music production. Writing original music, going to studios, meeting people like Pernell Farley, Chris Allman, Anthony Lohar, John Roit.
All the big names, man.
We were lucky at 18, 19 years old to be introduced to these guys. And when I saw the process of how a song is created, I was like, this is it. This is
the next step.
Again, Goosebumps, you're thinking about it. I was like, yo, because I'm not a front runner person. I don't like being up front or anything like that. I prefer to stay in the background. I would play in a brass section or whatever. So this was a way of me being able to express myself in the front, but not being in the front. Because, you can put your musical ideas down. And I found that meshed well with my personality. I was able to work with people and develop and get an idea out of your head and to see forward. I always tell people that's what production, one of the aspects of production is that you're able to see forward and hear a song from its concept without even melody or just a lyric. Sometimes the start point is different, but to be able to hear forward and hear the end product before it's actually finished. And in essence, you're also a project manager. So that entire process, I was completely enthused by that. And being under the wing of Mr. Lohar, Chris Allman, Pernell, they showed me so much, and I spent about a year or so producing my own beats and pretty much honing the craft and experimenting on my little brother. Big up Ramon Eastmond, aka Nitro, aka Ramon Bad, because he was into dancehall and I introduced him to hip hop and rap. So
and clearly he fell in love with that.
He fell in love with the hip hop after I introduced him to it, right? And I would build some beats, Ramon would sing over the rap, and I would experiment with him. So, bro, come record. Let me see if we get this thing done, And I had a little laptop my mom gave me. She allowed me to use my bedroom to start the studio.
Nice.
And we pretty much experimented with each other in terms of music and putting down, vocals. I learned how to then engineer those vocals, how to fit beats for his bars. Because as a musician, I would be counting in 4 bars. He'd probably be counting 2. So then I started to understand how vocalists would hear or see music, and that incubation stage was something serious. That was around 2004, and I jumped out with my first production with Omar McQuilkin and the song My Boo, which featured Hawkeye,
Oh, you
which was a
remember
part of
this one?
the band Electric. Yeah. So yeah, that's how it started.
That is fantastic, right? So how did Quantum come into the
The
equation?
name Quantum,
Yeah.
that was my brother.
Mm.
We always bounce ideas off each other.
Mhm.
And you see, yo, bro, you can't name that a stick, man. And I said, well, I can think about it, because he would always push the trash. So I think I had a couple names on the table. I mentioned to him Quantum. He said, yeah. He asked me, why? I said, because I said it has a scientific twist to it.
Mm.
It speaks to being unique. When you look at the various meanings of quantum, it speaks to something fundamentally intrinsic to you. You know, it's not only scientific. It's about also being different and taking different approaches. And you say, yeah. And the whole, I guess, how would I describe that? The mystique behind quantum and the astrophysics behind the name quantum, that attracted me too, because I like that kind of thing, stars. And if you give me anything on National Geographic to watch, I'll watch it the entire day. Right? So those kind of things I'm interested in. So the name quantum really stuck with me because of that.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So you remember the first success you had producing?
My Boo,
Mm.
which was a heavy load to carry, because it was the first song he produced. Even though I had spent a year or 2 years honing the craft around the other studios and learning from other studios, not expecting to have a hit in the first song.
Mhm.
That was crazy.
Lightning.
It was also a reality check too, because you had to stay humble about it, in that you can't think that you've made it. And that was something I had to keep in my head, and the members of the Electro also kept in my head as well. You know, don't think that you made it because of that, because I know that production was not necessarily the best I would ever produce. However, the song was very well written, well crafted.
Well received
Kudos to
too.
Omar, well received, right? And that was the first success that I experienced, and it was in my first year. I don't know if that was good or if that was bad.
No, that was a good sign.
Yeah, we had other successes over the years as well too, but the first year was definitely My Boo in Marsville. Artist bugging a Kent here. There was an artist from overseas called Emma Moses. Emma was on that rhythm as well.
I remember you were a Hollaback in the early days too, boy.
Yeah, Hollaback was on a dancehall rhythm that I had called the Heartman rhythm.
That's all too.
Yeah, I did dancehall, of course. Yeah, you know. So yeah, that 2009 movement reciprocated throughout the years, and I would have built, I think I would have been doing like 4 or 5 rhythms every single year, reggae rhythms, you know, like just getting the artists on the rhythms and going. And that's what built the relationship that Sluggy and I have right now, in terms of our movement for what we called Homegrown. We actually did a song called Homegrown, which featured him, Marvia, LRG, and Tennyson, I think, at that time. Big trap,
Yeah.
right? And we said, what else can we do? You know, DJs like DJ Tammy, Bar, those guys were playing local music. And we said, no, what else can we do? And we came up with the idea to have a show called the Beijing Green Reggae Roadshow. Working with me, I had Bernard Yearwood, Jason Watson again from Electric, Sluggy, my brother Ramon Eastmond. So many people. Keith Brandon was very instrumental in that. You know, he recorded the entire series for the Beijing Reggae Roadshow. The NCF had assisted us with stage. The reggae bands at the time, Fully Loaded. We had a reggae band called Project X, which featured Amber Orano. And Beijing Green Reggae Roadshow was pretty much a platform where we encourage the artists to sing 100% Beijing. Everyone had to sing Barbadian music.
That was a major push on your
Yeah,
end.
they had to sing their own.
That was the mission you were on.
That was the mission I was on. Instead of going up there and doing covers, nothing wrong with the Jamaican covers, major hits, but I think we needed to let people hear the original music. That was also inspired by Amber Orano as well too. I met her in 2009 or so. 2010 when she came to school. Yeah.
What a prodigy she was, boy.
Yeah. 2011. I remember little 11-year-old girl started great songs. You know, she gave me a book of songs. It was like, man, sing one, man. You know, when she started, it was like, woo.
Late for 6.
God gave you the studio. I called her mother and said, yo, your daughter has a gift. I really would love to record her. And Mother Blige, big up to Joy Neblet. for allowing me to work with her daughter all those years. The first song Amber produced in reggae was "Stop the Fussing and Fighting."
And
We did a music, we did a music video for that. That was epic, and she got the call then to perform at Reggae on the Hill. So because of Amber, I have to give Amber the credit for being the person to allow me then to eventually, in years to come, to also be the band leader at Reggae on the Hill for the Bajan segment, because they allowed her to perform the first year with other bands, and then eventually when they recognized that we had our own band, we then were able to be booked on the Reggae on the Hill
awesome.
in the Bajan segment, right? And then
That's his story, actually.
yeah, then the band went on to then be the backing band for the local segment, and we had the opportunity to put back Norris Man for Reggae on the Hill. We backed Luciano for I think several other shows that were held. We had Luciano, we backed Freddie McGregor, Admiral Tibbet, Tanya Stevens, Romain Virgo. We backed several international
That
artists.
changed the game.
Yeah. I can't say it changed the game. It changed the game for us because of our first experience, but of course bands who have gone before us have had that opportunity before. So I can't take kudos for the first to back Jamaican artists. The bands that would have gone before us, I'm sure Fully Loaded had the opportunity to back several Jamaican artists prior to us as well too. They were the leading reggae band at the time on the market, so kudos to Buggy and Fully Loaded as well. And it was really a united effort, a united front to really get Bajan music on the map, to be heard, to be seen. We still had a lot of fight,
I could imagine.
but that reggae segment of my life, I completely enjoyed that. Yeah, meeting persons like Dougie Dan, the historian. You got to meet an artist by the name of Dougie Dan, who would tell you stories about everything reggae from way back then until now in terms of Bajan music. Yeah, those are the guys, the gatekeepers, I would call them. Yeah, so that was a great experience for me.
Awesome. And of course, you're well known in Kropovo. So how did you get into the soca industry?
Soca started obviously from the same 2005 in Marsville.
Right.
Electric was a soca band, so we were on most major shows at that time between 1999 and around 2006, 2008, I think, when they left the band. So Kropovo was a staple. Additionally, my friends and I were playing in the Calypso tents from a very young age. David Haynes, who was the bass player in Electric, they was probably playing in a tent from the time he was 12 or 13. Dapper as well. We eventually followed suit as we got older, from like 15, 16. One of my most memorable years was in 1999, playing for the Lions Den. I think all of us were playing together in the same tent, and that was fun galore. And I realized, you know what, music is going to be my mainstay, right? Funny enough, when I left school, or when I was getting ready to leave school, my mother was telling me, why don't you go and do the associate degree in music or pursue music as a career or study?
Moms.
Yeah, but I know it was like, but mommy, everybody say you gotta get a foundation first, and you gotta.
Not you really want to tell your mother.
Yeah, it was the voice of reason. It was a flip thing, right? Everybody was like, "You crazy?" So I opted to go and do my degree in management. I started ACCA as well. A lot of people don't know that I have that academic side.
Okay.
Eventually went on. I did do the associate degree in music eventually, and I went on to do a master's in music education from Kingston University in London, and I'm currently pursuing a doctorate in educational leadership.
Awesome, well done.
Yeah, so I will tell people the academic side is still very, very necessary. You can hone your skills in your craft, but it's still good to have qualifications and certification in the area that you love and the area that you want to, develop a career out of.
So yes, Randy, congrats on this new album. I'm gonna try to pronounce it, but
Supra Omnia.
it is coming.
Yes.
The first single is coming soon, so we can't wait to hear it, man.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about it. Supra Omnia 2025, Quantum Productions, in your ear. Look out for it. Go search for it. Link me for it. The album is actually gonna be a physical album on a flash drive. Yeah.
I got what you want.
Yeah, we partnered with Anson McCall.
I gotta support that.
We partnered with Anson McCall and Standard. So you're gonna hear some incentives around the album, and you're purchasing the album, etc. So yeah, once you hear the launch has gone, please feel free to link me. It will be available online as well too, through Fox Hughes. That's my overseas distributor. So yeah, Supra Omnia 2025, 20 years of Quantum Productions. I'm looking forward to you hearing it, and looking forward to hear your feedback on it as well. Big up Paul Husbands and Select the Charts. We are out of here. Bye.